What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Odd Circus. It's great to be able to chat with you guys today. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's cool to have you here. We got the Mantha EP coming out next week, and being that this is an EP, was this meant to kind of just be like a sort of like first taste of what maybe Odd Circus full length album will be like? Is this kind of like scratching the surface in your sound in a way?
Graham, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so basically, with the way people are consuming music nowadays, we actually did already release a full length called Lunatic Children in 2019, and this was our second recording session, and we kind of upped our game since that first full length, and have a lot more toys and effects pedals and just more sophisticated recording setup. So we recorded a ton, and we just decided that the best way to put this music out in the way that was going to continue to grab people's attention was to put it out in sort of EP length chunks. So there is a lot more Odd Circus coming. We actually already have our second EP on the tail of this one coming that's in mastering right now. So we're just going to be, I think, until we have a reason to put out something longer, we're going to be operating at this kind of like 15, 20, 25 minute chunks of tracks. And I think it's a good digestible length for people to kind of get into the feel of what we're about. So, yeah.
It is, I think it's sort of kind of half of what you were saying, Alex, that it is a taste of what's to come, but it's not in the traditional sense that we're releasing a couple of teasers for the big single thing. It's like, yeah, this is the first volley of this massive chunk of music that we have. So heads up, but the distribution of it is going to be in sort of, we talked a lot about making it sort of, I don't know if it's genre related pieces, because we do all these different stylistic things. And some of it sort of naturally gravitates together into units. So if we can find those things that make sense to put together in the midst of these hours of good stuff we have, and we can go, here's a bite of this, and here's something that's more sludgy, and here's something that's more drum and bass, and do it kind of that way. And that seemed like, aside from the fact that it's like Graham was saying, it's digestible in the modern times, it's also kind of fun to like play the genre Legos with your own music. So it's I think it's cool.
Yeah, there's definitely on the periodic table of heavy metal subgenres, I can't really categorize Odd Circus in that regard. But what's funny is I was reading, the press release and everything for Odd Circus, and it seems like improvisation is really what plays a role into your songwriting process. So is there ever, though, like a time where maybe a preconceived idea or maybe some sort of emotion could dictate the direction of the music, or do you just go into the making of each composition with a completely blank slate?
Both. Really both. It's
yeah,
we do it all the time. It's sometimes we come in and like Graham or Cruz will suggest a key or something, or we'll have some more of a high-minded narrative concept, and then once we get that's about as much structure as we've allowed ourselves to have. No writing music, no songs, none of that. We have other projects for that stuff.
No Careless Whisper covers?
No. Well, I mean, if it comes up naturally in a jam and Graham's just feeling it, and the Careless Whisper riff comes up, it was meant to be.
I've never.
That's what I was gonna say. Never say never.
Yeah, I never interviewed a saxophone player before, but I needed to ask at least one point. How many times do people ask? I feel like saxophone, that Careless Whisper is the free bird of the saxophone.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, you gotta know it. I think it's hilarious. That guy who like caused the resurgence of that song, the Sexy Sax Man, just like with the mullet and his shirt off and playing it in the middle of supermarkets and everywhere, food courts and shit. I love that guy. And I actually met that guy. I lived in Austin for a little while, and I was at Chicken Shit Bingo, Dale Watson's Chicken Shit Bingo, where you bet out where the chickens are going to shit in a little pen, and you buy your bingo ticket, and Dale Watson plays, and the sexy sax man was there and sat in with Dale Watson, and I got to hang out with him a little bit. Good dude.
Of course, he lived in Austin.
And you wanted to add to the last question I asked if like there's a sort of like a preconceived idea. And
well, yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, my favorite ones, my favorite jams and that we do have some sort of like a concept up front where we will say, like, to give an example of one of my favorite ones, we said, have you heard this story about the Coke Bear? They're making a movie out of it now, so you're going to know about it. But there was a bear that some cocaine was dropped out of a plane, and this bear in the middle of the forest got into an entire shipment of cocaine.
The whole brick.
Yeah, a brick of cocaine. And it's a tragic story, actually. I mean, we laughed, but the bear did die eventually, but it was it spent a good amount of time just on an insane coke binge. So we, one of our jams, we said, okay, you are the Coke Bear. The brick drops, be the bear. Yep. And, that was our, like, conceptual takeoff point for that improvisation. And I think not on this EP, but the next one, there's a nugget that comes from that jam, which people will probably be able to guess which one it is.
Yeah.
That's
not a surprise.
That's wow. We went from Careless Whisper to cocaine to like I love this interview. I really do. This is yeah. We're 6 minutes.
Odd Circus, man.
We're almost 7 minutes into the interview, and already I'm just loving this. And what's funny is being that it's very improvisational, because you have a song on this EP, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your song titles. I do apologize for that, but they're all great.
I don't.
But like opening up with a 15-second long track to having a track that's ending it with a 7.5 minute long track. Like, at what point are you able to kind of like be satisfied with everything that's incorporated in at once?
Oh Lord.
Well, I mean, yeah, the editing process, being that everything is 100% improvised, the editing process and sort of, culling through all of the material and deciding what goes in and what doesn't is the most labor-intensive part of this whole thing. And we have a whole system with, like, all of our music is listed, and we have timestamps for everything. In terms of, like, we like this chunk, we like this chunk, we like this chunk.
Spreadsheets like you would not believe.
It's the only way.
Improvisational creation process, the aftermath is incredibly regimented. It's the opposite. We should ask if we're going to do anything like, we're not going to put all this stuff out like, blah, just 40 minutes of a jam that we did, take it or leave it. If we're going to edit it at all, it has to be pretty exacting. Otherwise, like, maybe one day we'll be big enough that we can do the Neil Young box set move where we're like, I don't give a shit if it sucks. I'm putting it out there because I did it. Like, we're not there yet. We want to give you the best that we did. And so we have to go through it all. And the process is because we didn't plan any of it. We got to go, like, listen again and remember, which is harder. So, but it ends up, the aftermath of it ends up being just these flashes of really, really, really drilled down intensity and cohesiveness. That's very, and at least with the three of us, it's very difficult to go after that deliberately, like to plan for something and find that with the three of us. We probably could if we sat down and did it long enough, but the whole reason this project came about in the first place really is because the three of us were just jamming together as friends, and it just started to go like, bam, like, oh shit, this is good. We should do something about this, guys. So the aftermath of it has got to be more regimented in order to get through all the crap and get to the really, really, really good stuff.
Well, being that
and I would say it's just to add to that, I was gonna say, like, it's actually, considering how much material there is and how crazy it could be to go through things, it's surprisingly easy to, like, all of us will tend to agree, like, oh yeah, like, at this exact moment, that's when it locks in. Like, we can tell, and then, like, ending at this point, yeah, that's, like, it started to go somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll quibble about a couple of seconds on the end and the beginning or the end or something, but it's pretty minimal. So
Yeah.
Does it like always start off with everybody playing at the same time, or has there ever been a time where maybe like Parton, you would have like a drum pattern written down and the band could throw a bunch of stuff over that? Or Graham, have you ever had like a saxophone melody that the rest of the band would write according to? Or does does it always start off with maybe one form of instrumentation, or does it always hit in with everything at once?
pretty loose, pretty much whatever we decide we want to do in the moment. Graham, we did a decent number of them where there was like, or at least Cruz and I, Cruz is the bass player, that he and I would start off on something and we would kind of go, it's really just whatever feeds the concept. If we have something that we decide we're going to do, you know, Coke Bear-esque or whatever, like here's the theme, and one of us kind of like finds what they're going to start with in that concept before the other two. Sometimes we'll just back off and say, all right, we'll let this develop and try to find our way in at a natural point. That happens in the middle of songs too. There was a particular song that we did. Graham, it was the shuttle one, I think, right? Where
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, we're gonna put that whole thing out at some point.
Yeah, that might be a whole one where we did a concept. It was a shuttle taking off and then it blew up on reentry. I might be paraphrasing that, but there was a part in the middle where I think all of us kind of in the timeline of things realized that like this ship was out floating in space, and Cruz and I backed off, and it was just Graham for like a couple of minutes just doing these really beautiful like pulsy. Like,
you're too kind, B.
You know, I've told you I like this shit, man. I'm in the band. I like the way you play music. I've already decided I like you.
I got you, bro.
But so those points where it's just a matter if it feels right for everybody to back the hell off and let somebody just be the focus, then that's what we do. And that happens often enough. But sometimes we decide, all right, everybody, especially like the in Lunatic Children, for example, the full length that we put out in 2019, the album opens up with us deciding to go just, all right, free jazz, everybody? Yep, loud free jazz. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of us just jam the fuck in there.
Yeah, to quote SpongeBob, Squidward, if we play loud, people will think we're good. So that's
it. That's modern jazz, man. Just scream at them and they'll figure, oh, they're really touching on.
I don't think that's just modern jazz. I think that's music everywhere you go.
Yeah. I'd say there is like a sort of a formula in terms of starting jams, but I would say the most common thing is either like some sort of a loop that provides like an atmosphere where it fills up space and there's not so much. I feel like there's less anxiety about like, oh, I need to do something right away if you have like a palette of sound underneath you. And then the other way that it would start is just a groove. I mean, like everything that we do pretty much, because we got this Wild Man on the kit, like is gonna have some sort of a groove and like something you can bob your head to. So that's definitely a common starting point too.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that maybe some of the melodies that are incorporated in the music, or maybe even some of the rhythm sections, are maybe reflective of an emotion or just any particular feeling that you were having at that time? Is that maybe like a starting point in a way in how you approach things improv-wise?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, a lot of times when we're starting with the concept, it's nice to have a story or something in your head, so you have like sort of visuals and you can work off that kind of synesthesia sort of thing. But if you're envisioning some sort of a story, you want to put your emotions into it and kind of fully enter a space where you're using your whole emotional experience to create art. I mean, that's what it's all about, So,
sure.
I mean, sometimes, I don't know. We had one that was like just panic, sort of. I think we started with some sort of terrible, awful scenario, and the jam
was like,
is
you and Cruz were all doing these like, all right, so here's what we're gonna do. You're in like a submarine and then it starts to leak and there's no fucking way out, man.
Yeah,
all right, let's play. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? So we play your impending doom. And so that's emotional, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of those concepts, I mean, yeah, putting yourself through that, you want to like, you know, pump the brakes on going full dive headfirst into like, you know, the emotional space of I'm dying in a submarine. But I mean, they're tools really to get at the emotional part of it. Yeah, so I think that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, and like kind of and part, and I'll kind of put you on the spot the same way I put Graham on the spot with the careless whisper question. But we're not going to talk shit. But if somebody presents the music to you before you lay down any rhythm, right? You could answer this honestly. How off time is it sometimes?
Oh, you mean if somebody gives me a piece of music and they're like, hey, I want you to play drums to this, or there's no backing drums and such. Honestly, these days very infrequently because most people are programming their shit, which is sort of the opposite problem. Is it's lifeless and it's very grid-like, and there's no swing and there's no place for it to breathe. So it's actually it's always on time to a degree that a lot of times within the genre they're trying to do, like, it's not great. It's like you listen to hip hop and after Dilla started making beats and whatnot, that little glitchy kind of offbeat thing. It's like, oh, you have to be really good to play this the wrong way just this much so that it sounds really swingy and bouncy and dope like that. And you can't get the whole reason Dilla was able to do that is because he had a drum machine and he turned the quantize off. That's how he did that. So,
yeah, he just played it. He just played the shit.
Yeah, exactly. So he was drumming. So if you don't do that, then what I hear is you need a human, or if you don't need one, then you don't need me. So back in the day, before recording technology became much more available and affordable, that was a common thing that people were trying to do it. They wouldn't be playing to click tracks, and they'd be playing to, tapping their foot, or they might have like a metronome flashing on their feet, or like a bad, headphone on, and they do their best, but then they do these transitions and stuff and they lose the beat. And I've done a couple of times where I've had to like really think hard about what time signature this person thinks this bridge is in and just make an educated guess. So not as often these days, but often enough.
Fair enough. And the final question I wanted to ask you is because, again, going back to the whole improv thing, this is a really unique basis to form an interview on, because I never really interviewed a band that thrives off of improvisation as much. So it's really cool that this is almost kind of like an integral part of your sound and your songwriting. But then if you were to ever play this material live, being that it is so improv, do you then have to listen to the final products and final recordings, and then you have to rehearse it or do you, if you were to play live, it would just all be improv again?
It's just new. We tried to do that, actually. This most recent time, we thought we'd never done this before, where we had this huge amount of time to run with and record stuff. We're like, all right, first few days, we're going to get what we get. And then we'll go to chunks of performances where we might have been able to do it better or what have you. And we're going to take day 4 or 5, and we're going to try to do these again. And we tried to recreate these improv pieces that we'd done, and it was fucking torture.
It was awesome.
We stopped playing in the middle. In the history, we've been doing this since what, Graham? For about 10 years now, with Cruz's mom's Christmas parties and shit. Back when we first started to do this together.
Probably,
never stopped jam in the middle of the jam. And I stopped. I'm like, nope, this feels terrible. I don't like it. It's bad and I hate it. And so if we were to play live, it would we haven't really discussed this a lot, frankly, but Graham, here's my vote. No, we're just going to go play. and
I agree.
Well,
no, I agree. I think, I certainly hope that we do get to, go out and tour with some other, maybe another prog rock band or something. We get to, get out on the road and open for somebody and bring our sound to some new audiences. And I thought a little bit about it. I think that the best thing to do would just be to sort of, have a roadmap in terms of what sorts of sounds we want to explore, what sorts of emotional spaces we want to take people to. Okay, let's start off with something heavy. Maybe we pick a key. Let's start in D minor, something heavy.
Yeah.
And then we'll, you know, and then you could map out a set list based on those sort of rough parameters that will still allow us to like tap into our being present and being in the moment and listening to each other and reacting in the moment, because that is really what we do best at.
That's what we're good at.
So you at least know like your key, because you don't want to go into it completely baseless, because you know you want to make the music fun for people to listen to. I mean, obviously a band should always make music for themselves and always do what they want to do. But if you're playing it live, you want people to enjoy it. Like there was Rob Zombie had a famous saying when forming White Zombie, he said, "Let's never use conventional drum beats," which in translation means to let's not make the songs fun for anybody to listen to. And but
no fun.
Yeah.
No, I am a huge proponent of moving asses. Like one of my favorite bands is LCD Sound System. Like, I want you to bounce, and we're gonna get weird because weird's fun too. But I'm gonna get you out of your seat and we're gonna move. That's half of the point. And if we do it kind of Zappa style, and then I'm like invoking Frank Zappa, like there's any comparison. But if we do it Zappa style, you get people up and dancing and moving, and then they'll buy it when you freak out. You like earn the weirdness by making them groove for long enough, and then when you get all weird, they're like, "What are these? What? I'm okay with this because they're gonna. I believe that they're going to entertain me later. This is fine. I'll think for a minute, and then you drop back into something that they can, that's not arrhythmic nonsense, and that's how you earn the fans.
Fair enough.
I think that's how we're gonna do it, I guess.
So before we go, I want to thank you all so much for your time today. This was a really fun interview, and really excited for the rest of the world to hear more of you guys, because I think Odd Circus is definitely a band that's going to really get people weird as well as having fun. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for the band, or anything else you'd like to plug? Care to play Careless Whisper? No, I'm kidding. I had to ask that one time.
I haven't got my horn set up right now.
Don't you dare.
Yeah,
I'll get my kazoo and we'll do it.
I'll whistle it.
That's actually really good.
No, just the EP drops on April 2nd. So Mantha is the EP. You can already pre-order it on our Bandcamp. That's oddcircus.bandcamp.com. And you can stream and download with your pre-order 2 singles that are Gezra and Amarok, which are already out. And you'll get the rest on April 2nd, and that'll be out everywhere, streaming on all the platforms. So
Graham does a bunch of really cool so when we did this last recording session, he figured out how to do big green screen stuff. So he hung up like gigantic green blankets around, or like sheets around all of us. So our Instagram is pretty rad because Graham makes like all these cool videos and stuff for little snippets that we do. So if you haven't liked us on Instagram or followed us on Instagram, I don't know how that goes because I don't pay attention to it. Graham's really good at it. So our Instagram is really cool, and we have lots of interesting music and stuff and teasers and things. So go sign up for that, because that's probably one of the better ways to know when something cool is coming out from us.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you all so much. Everybody, we are here with Odd Circus, the Mantha EP coming out April 2nd. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.